Chuber, following days. And Kosim Mechuber, Lekarka. One should not write a get when it's Mechuber Lekarka. Why? Because the Torah says V'kosav and Nosan. There cannot be a separation between the writing and the giving. What about Kosim Mechuber? Let's see, did write it, told show, detached it, V'chosmo, and signed it, meaning the Adim did not sign on the get when it was written on the tree. Not kosher, it's kosher. So the Gemara is going to say, why is it kosher? Because when the Torah says kosav means v'chosam, according to Reb Meir. So as a result of that, you cannot have an interruption between the signing and the giving. So why shouldn't you write it on the tree? Because there's a gzeira, we're concerned that if you write it, you may sign it on the tree. Reb Yehuda posel shiksiosu chasimosu betolish. Reb Yehuda says no. Kosav is referring to the writing and the signing. Therefore, unless both are done where it's detached, it's a problem. Because there has to be no interruption from the writing immediately. If you have a blotted piece of paper, meaning that if you have an erasure, you're not going to be able to detect that there was an erasure, because originally you wrote it on a paper that already was erased. La diftro, it's like, the Gemara will discuss, it's a type of hide that hasn't been fully processed, so therefore when you write on it, you don't know if it was, you could change, make an alteration, you won't even know the difference. Yochel is daif, because you're able to forge it. Because what's going to be? You'll have the signatures, and let's say the get was given on a tanai, a conditional get. The person will go erase the tanai, conditional, write what he wants. The Chacham say it's permitted. Why? They validate it. Because the Chacham is going like Reb Lezer. Reb Lezer is Edim Mesira Karsi. Since Edim Mesira said witnesses will see exactly what's written in that get, right? When it's given by the husband, so they'll know exactly, and so therefore there's no. See, Kosal Mechuber, it says if you write on the Mechuber, you're not permitted to write it when it's attached. I've already ratio in Kosvin, but it says if you did, it's valid, right? In Kosal Mechuber, right? But if you did write it and you detached it, it's kosher. What's it speaking about? According to Rabbi Shmuel, he only wrote, right? He only wrote the non-essential part of the get. So when it says v'kosav, he didn't write the essential part. The Torah is the essential. That's the names, and that he's divorcing her. That he wrote after it was detached. When it says in the Mishnah that if he did not, he wrote it after he was tolesh, it's speaking where when he wrote when it's attached to the tree, it was only the non-essential.
Is this the middle part of the get?
It's the beginning of the get.
The
beginning.
So,
He left out the Mokum Torah, which is essential. We see Rashi says, take a look at Rashi. Toref, Giluyav Shel Shtar, Mokum Ish V'Ishas Man. Okay? The Omar Rabbi Rechon, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan says, Hu Shashir Mokum Torah, V'chen Rabbi Lozi. It's going like Rabbi Lozer. Doma Edim Mesira Karsi. If you hold the Torah has to be written when it's detached. That means when Torah says v'kosav, what does kosav mean? Doesn't mean signing. It means the actual text of the get. You don't even write the non-essential when it's attached. Why? Shem yichtov toref. Because it's a gzeira. You may write the essential part of the get, not the sign. You don't have signatures. Going like Rabbi Loza, Edim Mesira Karsi. What about kosel tofes v'tolsha? What happened? He did the wrong thing. He wrote the non-essential, and then he detached it, and then kosel toref v'nosel kosher. It's kosher. Reish Lakish Omar, so Reish Lakish says, no, Chosmo Chosshani. The Mishnah says, Chosmo, right? He signed it. Ramei, it's going to Ramei, so Ramei wrote, so you could even take somebody else's get out of a waste can, right?
Right.
So it's irrelevant. So when Torah says Kosav, what does Kosav mean? It means V'chosam. Doma Edi Chasima Karsi, Volchem, Ein Kosvin Torah. You shouldn't write the Torah, which is the essential part of the get when it's on the tree. Gzeira Shemi Yachtom, because you may put the signatures. Because of the Torah, what about if you wrote the Torah of the essential, Tolsha and detached it, Chosmo, and they had it signed? No, it's kosher. Why? Because what does Kosav mean? Kosav means the signing. So since from the signing to the giving there was no interruption, therefore it's valid. Okay, now let's discuss something else. If you have an otzitz nok, if you have a flower pot with a hole in it, let's say on Shabbos, you would take it, and it's above the ground, you take it and put it on the windowsill. What did you violate?
Ooh.
You violate the law of Talisha, because we say that even though the root is not in the ground, it's nourished to the air. So by putting it on the windowsill, you're actually cutting off nourishment. That's called Tolish. It's like reaping. So what about it? You have a flower pot, and you write the get on the pot itself, not on what's growing in the pot.
Good.
Koswa lachere shel otzitz. He wrote on the pottery of the flower pot.
Right.
Nokuf, even though it was nokuf, nokuf means it was,
Naked.
no, nokuf means it had a hole,
Oh, okay.
it was perforated, kosher.
Good.
Why? The shokal eviyovle delo, because he actually gave, there's no interruption, he wrote it on, he gives it immediately. Even though it's attached, doesn't make a difference attached. What about oleh shel notzitz nokuf? What about he wrote on the leaf? He wrote on the leaf of that was growing in the pot. Abayom kosher. Abai says it's kosher. Ravam Apostle, Bayamakosha, the Shokel, Levi Ovlo, Nello. Same reason. He's given to it. There's no interruption between the writing. He wrote it on the leaf. Gives it Ravam Apostle, Gzera Shav Yiktom. Because this Gzera, what happens, rather than giving you the pot with the leaf, he tears off the leaf. So it comes out, if he tears off the leaf, there's an interruption between the writing and the giving. Therefore it's possible. So it's only possible in Drabanan. Otzit Shalechot. Now, interesting. Let's see, unrelated to get. Just the question of acquisition. Now, how does one acquire metaltlin? By taking possession. How does one acquire karka? Keser shtar chazok. Either money, a document, or chazoka. Otzit shelechod uzrob shelachir. You have a pot belonging to one person, and what's growing in the pot belongs to someone else. What's growing in the pot belongs to someone else. Reuven owns the pot. Shimon owns what's growing in the pot. Mocha bal otzitz lebal azroim. Now, the one who owns the pot wants to sell it to the one who owns what's growing in the pot.
Okay.
Came in Shemosh Kona. Once he pulls it, he's Kona. Why? So what is he acquiring? He's acquiring metaltlin.
Right.
Metaltlin nikne acquired with Meshicha.
Right.
So therefore it's Kona. What about Mocha Bal Zroim Lebal Otzitz? What about if the one who owns what's growing to the Bal Otzitz, to the one who actually owns the pot, Lo Kona Achi Yasu Bizrom, he has to do a chazoko, right? Because karka is only nikne, acquired with a chazaka, that means he has to do some kind of alteration in what's growing in the pot. Otzit is unrelated to get. Otzit, uzrob shalechot. What about both? The pot belongs to the person, and what's growing belongs to the person. Umochen leechot, lacher, and he sold to a third party. Herzik bizroim, and the person made a kinyan in the zroim, made a chazaka.
In the pot.
Not in what's growing in the pot.
What's growing in the pot.
Right?
Good.
Kon otzitz, he acquires the otzitz. Why? What's the halacha like this? I sell you a house with a document, and there's furniture in the house. So the furniture in the house is what is metaltlin.
No, okay.
That's called kinyan agav.
Right.
When you acquire the property, what's on that property is acquired through that. It's the same thing here. When you acquire the
pot.
the zroim,
land,
so the pot goes with it. Good. Zushishanim, this is what we learned in the Mishnah. Nechosim shemenachrayis is property which doesn't have a lien on it, which is metaltlin, which is movables. Nikrim nechosim sheishlam achrayis. You acquire it with nechosim, with fixed property. And what's the acquisition? The kesef, b'shtar b'chazoko. What about herzik ba'otzitz? What about the possession of the otzitz? Right? The pot. He did a chazok in the otzitz, not a kinyan meshicha.
Good.
Af otzitz lo kona. Why? Because kinyan chazok has no relevance to metaltlin. Kinyan chazok only has relevance to something which is fixed property. Achiyas bizroim. What about nik? Now, a new shayla. Finish with that. Nikvo ba'oretz v'nova b'chutz loretz. You have a pot growing, the whole is over Eretz Yisrael, but the branch, what's growing in the pot, goes over the side. Okay? So the question is, where does the nika go? Does the nika go through the hole, or does the nourishment go through the air where the branches? Abaye Omar Bosa Nikvo Aslinam. What determines the status of what grows in that pot? It's where the hole is. If the hole's in Eretz Yisrael, any fruit that grows, or vegetables, you have to give mais and truma, everything. Rava Mabosa Nofu Aslinan. Rava says no, it's all determined where the branch is. Not where the hole is, where the branch is. 1 second. Someone says like this. But the ashrush, if you actually have the root in the ground, let's say the same thing. You have a pot, the root is in the ground, and what grows is growing outside the pot in chutz loretz. Lo pligik, then now everybody agrees it's Eretz Yisrael. If the root is in the ground, regardless where the branches hang over, it's Eretz Yisrael. Ki pligi below ashrush. Where they argue, where it didn't take root. The root is not in the ground. It's only sitting on the ground, or it's going through the air. You got it?
It's still the pot with the holes in it.
Pot with a hole in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay,
So we have the pot with the hole in it. If it's rooted, everybody agrees it's bossy, and it's where the root is, regardless of where the branches hang over.
Right.
The argument is where the root is not in the ground. Ubeda ashrush lo pligi. Someone says, you mean to say where it's in the ground, they're not arguing for it. Now we learn the Mishnah. Shteg ginos. Zu agav zu. Let's say you have two courtyards. You have an upper backyard, and then there's a step going down, and now there's something growing on the wall of the upper courtyard, the wall which is opposite the lower courtyard, but it's in the property of the upper courtyard, growing out. The yerek bein time, and there's a vegetable growing in between. So the question is, who owns that vegetable?
Right.
The upper person or the lower person? Okay? So in terms of where it's growing, where's it growing? It's growing in the property of the upper person.
Right.
But over whose property is it growing?
Right.
Over the lower person.
Mm-hmm.
Remero Meshel Elyon. It belongs to the upper person. Why? Because it's growing in his property. Reb Yudah Meshel Tachton.
At the bottom.
So what do you see? Even though it's rooted in the upper persons, you just finished telling where it's rooted, everybody agrees it belongs to the one where it's rooted. So how does Reb Yudah argue Reb Meir? So you see, it's not so simple. And we rule like Reb Yudah, that you go after the lower one, not the upper one. But you just finished telling the root is in the ground, it's irrelevant what it goes over.
The upper, right.
Right? And Reb Yudah says it's the lower. Reb Yudah Omer Shel Tachton. Smar says, Hosum Ketoni time, it's not difficult. There Reb Yudah qualifies, there it's a whole different story. Omer Meir, Maim Yitze Elyon Lito Lisafro. In Kanyerek, Rameir says, you know what belongs to the upper one? Let's say the old person, the upper party, he'd want to remove all the earth. So what happens to where does the vegetable go?
Right.
It goes to the upper. Omer Reb Yehuda, Maim Yitze Tachla Malos Eskinoso. Let's say the low one wants to raise his, so it comes out. You don't have a yerek any longer,
So what happened?
right? Ginoso offer in Kanyerek. So it has not. That's the argument. Because it doesn't exist. Because if the lower person would raise it, there's no vegetable any longer.
Good.
So Mara says, "Vakat b'ashet lo pligi." You mean to say where it takes root, there's no argument. V'atanya, we learned the brayse. Elonch mikzosa boretz. You have a tree growing. Part of the tree, the roots. Some of the trees are chutz loretz. Part of the trees in their oretz. Mikzosa boretz, mikzosa b'chutz loretz. Some of the roots are in Eretz Yisrael. Some of the roots are in chutz loretz. Tevel chulim rovin zebazeh div Rebbe. Rebbe says, since the roots come up, draw out from chutz loretz in Eretz Yisrael, all the fruit is intermingled with what? With tevel and chulin.
Right.
Tevel and chulin. Reb Shimon Lomer hagodl b'chiyuv chayuv, hagodl b'ptur potter. What grows outside is outside. What grows inside is inside. But you just finished telling me everybody agrees that if it takes root, you go after the root. You don't go where it's growing. My lab mitzvos nofo. So one understands it's not the root. Part of the branches hang outside. Part of the branches hang inside. My lab mitzvos nofo beoretz, mitzvos nofo chutz loretz. So if that's the case, it's difficult. But where is the root? The root's in Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara said fully. No. Mixes sharosha boretz. Some of the roots are in Eretz Yisrael. So here it's different. The root itself is outside. Some roots are inside. Some roots are outside. But chutz loretz. My time. So what's the svara of Reb Shimon Gamliel? Actually, when it comes up through the roots, it's all intermingled. So how can Reb Shimon Gamliel say that it's all determined by what? It's half and half. What grows outside is outside. What grows inside is inside. How's that possible? When it comes into the trunk, everything's mixed. The mafsik tzuna. Hear what's going on over here? You have roots on the outside and the inside. Some roots, and you have a stone wedged in between, meaning separating the roots from outside and the inside. Yeah. So we'll see in a minute. My time, the Rebbe, the Haji Arvi. Even though you have a stone separating it, but when they get into the trunk, all the nourishment is intermingled. So if it's intermingled, then what? Don't look at your phone. What are you looking at your phone now?
Then tell them don't bother me.
You don't have to tell them. So shut the thing off.
Yeah.
Okay? So my time to Rebbe Tahadri Arvi, because it becomes intermingled. Once it comes to the roots, regardless of a stone separating it, the nourishment goes up.
It still goes to the...
It mixes, so therefore it's chulin and tevel rovin. But my completely, what are they arguing? What's the machlokas? What's the machlokas of Shimon Gamliel and the Chachomim? Yeah, and the Tanakama. Marsov avir mevalvult. It's true, even though the roots are separate, once it goes into the trunk, it mixes. So it mixes, every fruit is half chulin, half tevel. Marsova, but Reb Shimon says, hay luchudei koi. Meaning, if the root, because since as high as the roots go, there's a separation, it doesn't mix in the trunk. It does not mix in the trunk. When does it mix in the trunk? If there's nothing separating the roots. So as it goes into the trunk, it goes in together.
Okay.
So it mixes at the very beginning. But if it's wedged into the trunk, you have the stone, so each one goes up half on one half. So what's outside is outside, what's inside is inside. Reb Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Reb Yehuda ben Beseira says that if you write on a near mochuk, it's not valid, right? It's not valid. The Chum say it is valid.
Okay.
Omer Reb Chibar Yosef B'Shmei Du'ulo Gimel Orasei. The three levels of hide which are processed. Here, you have to some kind of degree of processing.
Right.
You have matzah. What's matzah? Matzah is flour and water.
No connection.
No.
Nothing is processed.
Rega.
Simple.
Matzah is flour and water. That's what matzah is. Then you have chifa. You have diphthera. Matzah kishmaud lo melich v'lo kamiach. It's just soaked. You didn't add salt. You didn't add any flour, v'lo ofitz, or tanning.
Right.
Tannin. You didn't add any tannin.
Nothing.
But what was it? It was just soaked.
Right.
Soaked in water. So what relevance is Lotzor Shabbos? Meaning, to be in violation of transporting Shabbos, you have to take out a minimum measure of something. So what relevance does it have? Meaning, let's say it's processed the most minimal level, just soaked. How much of that hide do you have to take out to be in violation of Shabbos? Because it has to have value. If it has no value, it means nothing. What does that mean? You know, in the old days, weights were made of lead.
Right.
Lead is a very soft metal. It wears away. So they would wrap it in a piece of leather, a piece of hide, that it shouldn't wear down. So therefore, they would the value of the hide, which is not processed, just as a wrapping.
Good.
So what size weight? Kama omraboy kiriva de riva de pumbedisa. Quarter of a quarter of the weight of pumbedisa, which is a very small piece of leather, but it's unprocessed. It's just a piece of hide because they would wrap it. What's chayfa? The molich v'lo kamiach. They salt it. They soak the hide in brine, salt brine, v'lo kamiach v'lo ofitz, but no flour and no gall nuts. That's gall nuts. So what relevance is that? Lotzor Shabbos v'kama shuro kednan or kedei lasos kameo, which means if a person would wear an amulet, they would wrap the amulet in this piece of hide.
Okay.
What's diphthera? The maliach v'kamiach. It's salted in the water. They put salt. The kamiach below ofitz. See what ofitz is they put that's the final. That's like a sheen. So if you have a coating on the leather on the hide, if you erase it, immediately you see the erasure because it's a sheen.
Right.
But let's say you just have it's salt brine and kemach. It has a rough surface.
Okay.
So if you make any erasure, the whole thing it's like a pair of buckskin shoes, right? Suede shoes. As much as it always has that buff, that buck, you know, the unfinished look. For the ofitz, so Shabbos kam shiro, they lichtavos a get. Meaning, its value in that context is to write a get. Wait 1 second. But you could forge it. It does make a difference, because if you hold like the chachomim, so if you have 80 Masir, it's not a problem forgery. But if you hold 80 Chasim, Chom Machshirin, Man Chachomim, who are the Chachomim? Omer Reb Lozor, Reb Lezi. So Reb Lezi, who's Reb Doba, 80 Masira Karsi. Right? If it's 80 Masira, we're not concerned with forgery. According to Reb 80 Chasim, everything has to be contained within the get, the information. When the witness is signed, do you know whether it was altered afterwards? You don't know if it was altered afterwards. Adam signed on the get, then the husband gives the get. Do you know if it's altered? The Adam was signed. The get has no value until you give it.
Right.
Let's say you put it Tanai, and now she goes and erases the precondition.
Right.
Well, if the old Adam Masir, it happens on the spot. That's what gives it its validity.
Right.
So then you're able to see what went on. They'll read it, they'll see. Right? The husband gives it, they read it as the husband gives it, so they know immediately. Meaning, the moment she gets the get, the Edom are present, she goes to Bezdin, and the witnesses who read it just now, they go to Bezdin, and they substantiate it that this text is exactly what happened. Low. But let's say she goes to the Bezdin after 10 days. The witness is not, right? What are we concerned? Because the witnesses, they forgot what was written. If they read it immediately, the witnesses read before it's given.
Right.
You sure we see this? I'm giving it. And they witness the transfer. Right? They have to read it before he gives it.
Right.
Why do they have to read before he gives it? Because maybe he's giving a newspaper article.
Right.
Right? Or a laundry bill.
Yeah.
So he has to read. So the witness know exactly what's being given. So if you immediately go to Bezdin to say she got a get, the witness will testify what was written. What happens if a 10-day lapse happens? And then you call the witness. They don't. After 10 days, they don't remember what was written.
Right.
Even though at the time they saw what, but they don't recall it. Rabbi Yochanan fil mikana asher yomim. Why? They remember even 10 days later. Because they remember if there was a condition, they would remember. This is true only by Gitin, which means by a divorce document. But if it would be a monetary document,
It couldn't work.
why? Because it's based on, it says, Nesatim Kli. This is right before the Churban Bayis Rishon. You should put the document in a earthenware jug. It should be able to last for many years, because later when we come back from exile, after 70 years, you want to claim property, you'll have the document proving it's yours. So it says, so that's a monetary document. So Rashi says, a document which is lugavainu, which is to collect or to prove ownership, that document you have to last for many years. Why? That's called the shtar raya. It's a proof. Rabbi Yochanan afil shtoris, even documents. Why? Well, it says in the Apostle Man Yamdu Yom Rabim, the document has to be able to last many years, and if it could be altered. The witnesses will remember. If they don't remember, they don't remember. But if they remember, we rely on their memory.
Okay.
The pasuk is only giving good advice. You want good advice to be able to prove in the future. Make sure store it away. L'man yamdu yam and rabim. Okay. Hakol kshir lichtav zaget. Everyone's qualified to write a get. You hear this? I feel a deaf mute, an unstable person, a minor. The Gemara asks a question. But they're incompetent. The Gemara asks, if you have to have kavana lishma, any of these people, they don't have it.
Yeah.
The Gemara asks a question. A woman can even write her own get, right? Let's say a woman's qualified to write a get,
Okay.
and she has the lishma. It's 100% kosher. Vish kosher is shovro, and the husband can write the receipt. Here, when the woman gets a ksuba, she has to give a receipt to the husband. She received the ksuba. So let's say the husband writes the receipt on behalf of the wife. She takes it and she gives it back to the husband. Who gives the get to the woman?
The husband's supposed to...
He doesn't have to write the get. She says, I'm a calligrapher. I know, I'll write it.
So
Then he gives it to her and he gives it back to her.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Okay.
That's even though she's going to be the one to receive it ultimately.
So for initially, she gives it to...
And she writes it, Lishma gives it, and he gives it back to her. So it's kosher.
Good.
Let's say she's illiterate. Now she wants to collect the ksuba. He says, you know something, but I can't give you a ksuba if I don't have a receipt to prove that I paid it. So he says, I'll write this receipt, I'll give it to you, give me back the receipt. Right? It's not a problem.
Okay, but in business that would be a problem.
No, he's doing with her permission.
Yeah, okay.
Right? It's right? Shein kima get el b'chosamav. Because what establishes the get as a get? You have to have signatures.
Right.
She'll write it. Without the signatures, it has no value.
Good.
So he gives it to her. Now he says, get witness. They sign.
And then,
So she has the get without signatures. It has no value.
good.
So because when does it take on the status of a get to be able to terminate? When you have witnesses.
Right.
So that the husband will take care of the witnesses. That says, Sheikim shtar haget el b'chosamav. What gives the get its validity? When you have the signatures. Somewhere is a question. How can you tell me can write a get? They're not competent. A deaf mute, a minor, and a what? And an unstable. They're not competent. So Rashi is lo yodu lichtov l'shmo. See? Meaning, it's interesting. Tosas Tosas brings a proof from here. One of the Gemara is better. They're not b'nei shlichus. If the husband has to write the get, and the shofar is a shlich of the husband, these three can't be shluchim. Can't be nate. Rashi doesn't say that. They can't. They don't have the capacity to have l'shmo. They don't have the intelligent capacity, IQ, to write it. So Tosas brings proof from here. To write the get, you don't have to have what's his name. The husband doesn't. He just has to authorize the writing of the get. It does not be written by the husband. It only has to be his authorization.
So that's a shaliach.
No, you don't need shliach to write the get. You don't need shliach.
Well, he's appointing...
He's not. He's just authorizing him to write. He's giving permission, but they're not him.
Okay, good.
So therefore, the Gemara says even that may be the case, but they can't write lishmo
Right.
because they don't have the intelligence.
Good.
Right, because he's a minor, deaf mute, or unstable.
Mm-hmm.
On that, Gemara answers, "Who show you a good lobin al gavav." We're not talking about writing independent husband. They have somebody on top of them instructing them every word they write. Have this in mind. No, not what. Have this in mind.
Yeah.
This is Ruvain. This is Leah. This is this. This is that. Whatever it may be. Rashi says, and the person instructs them, write it on behalf of this person. The ksover Rav Huna, Masisa Rebbe Lezi. So if you hold like Rebbe Lezer, so the get has to be written Lishma. Kosav means the actual writing of the get. If you hold Neidim Masira Karsi. When Torah says v'kosav according to Rebbe Eliezer, what does that mean? The get has to be written specifically for this couple.
So we have a person who's writing who doesn't have lishma, but another person is saying, I want you, he has lishma.
No, I mean he's not capable of doing lishma because he's a minor, he's unstable,
Right.
or he's deaf mute.
So this man's kavanah.
No, not this man's kavanah. No, he instructs them
So what is that called? He's instructing him how to
to have in mind lishma. When you write Ruvain, have in mind Ruvain, this Ruvain. When you write Leah, have in mind this Leah. When you write it's a divorce document, have in mind that it's a divorce.
Okay,
Not third person is having in mind it affects that. No.
we're not talking that.
We're there putting it to the head of these people who on their own cannot.
Okay.
But they have to be contingently on top of them. Right? Okay, further. So yes, a kasha, if that's the case. What about a goy? So why isn't a goy qualified to write a get? Right?
Good.
So why does it only say
Mhm.
even a goy? Maybe you want to say maybe yes. I've a time we learned in the Brisa over the Chov Apostle. Chum writes a get regardless. There's no circumstance it'll be kosher.
Right.
Somewhere says Ovid Kochoven Ladaite the Nafshi Ovat. When a goy, you could tell him from today forever. He has his own ideas in mind. So even if you're instructing, you never know what's going on in his head. He has his own agenda, right? Adaiti Ladait Nafshi Ovat. Hoder Omer Rav Nachman Lav Milsi. Yeah. The answer is it's even more basic than that. It's not because even without that, the Amri Midiko Posle Lovik Choben Linin Havo. We'll stop here. Okay.
So I have a question.